Oh boy, apparently some late night NASCAR news hit. Let's see what this is about. Oh, it's you. Okay, I guess we gotta talk about this again. Yay, more lawsuit stuff. Yeah, so apparently there was something last night with the lawsuit. If you did not know, 2311 and Front Row Motorsports, two NASCAR Cup Series teams, did not sign the 2025 charter agreement. And instead, not only did they not sign it, they decided to sue NASCAR for being a monopoly. There's a fancier legal term. That's what I'm going to stick with for now. Anyways, last night, a bunch of team owners who signed this charter agreement decided to release some statements, and they're all kind of similar-ish. You know, they all say their own things in a sense, but it's like the same format of letter that they released to the court. So NASCAR in court, they're obviously trying to fight their case, saying 2311 and Front Row are wrong, and they got to provide evidence. They're looking for anything, and they got some statements from team owners. The team owners stated in their statements that they did not, they did this voluntarily. That's what they say. So we got statements from Roger Penske, from Joe Gibbs, Richard Childress, Rick Hendrick, Brad Keselowski, Gordon Smith, who owns Hyak Motorsports, John Wood, BJ McLeod, Carl Long. Like, we've got some other, so even a couple owners in there who don't even own charters. So, yeah, let's go through some of the highlights, I guess, of these statements. If you want to read every single statement and every single bit of it, Matt Weaver put together a thread of all the statements and everything on top of his article, so I'll let you go read that. So the statements are like, they start off with like, hey, my name is Roger Penske. Here's what I do. Here's what I've done. Here's part of my life story, basically his life story, about how he got to where he is today in terms of NASCAR, owning a bunch of teams. But something interesting in the Penske statement, before we get to the end that everyone said, he points out the 2016 charter is subject to a non-renewal at the end of 2024. All of the charter holders entered into negotiations with NASCAR in 2022. Team Penske signed 2025 charters for its 3 cars racing in the Cup Series. I signed the 2025 charters because I felt that NASCAR was not going to move any further on their document, and it was time for our team to go forward. My belief in the value of the NASCAR charter system is confirmed by the fact that, based on my experience with NASCAR's charter system since 2016, I decided to create a charter-type system in IndyCar, which of course he owns. In 2024, the IndyCar series and all teams racing full-time in IndyCar entered into a charter agreement effective for the 2025 season. The IndyCar charter has some similarities to the NASCAR charter, and I believe has brought some value to our series. So, if you're arguing, so here's the thing that confuses me though, is NASCAR has all these teams, let's go back. Let me get to the last part. I am presenting this declaration voluntarily and of my own free will. So, yes. He said that by himself. They all said that by themselves. Okay, but back to my previous point. The thing that confuses me the most in all these statements that were made under free will, what? Here's what I'm saying, what? So NASCAR's whole thing here is the charter system is the base, or at least part of this argument, this lawsuit, right? 2311 in Front Row, they don't want the charter system to go away. So why is NASCAR, once again, NASCAR's not having these teams. When the teams wrote up these statements and they focused so heavily on the charter system, saying, we want the charter system to continue. We want the charter system to, it's a huge it benefits our team so much. Like, well, when I read these statements, in regards to the lawsuit, that makes me think that 2311 and Front Row don't want the charters, but they do want the charters. They want the charters to be permanent, actually. They want beyond a 7-year deal. They want these charters to be a permanent fixture. That's the only thing I'm confused about here. So, Joe Gibbs, in his statement, he points out, Jim France and Steve Phelps asked me to provide a declaration in this matter. And then he points out, I am doing so though with great reservation. Points out that him and Jim Freitas are friends. Then, of course, his relationship with Denny Hamlin. This lawsuit has put him in a very difficult position. Points out that the charter discussions were very difficult. And he also points out, I think this is a very noteworthy thing from Joe Gibbs, had we not agreed to the charter agreement, JGR would have put at risk its 4 charters, which in turn would have put at risk the organization as a whole and the employees and the families that rely on us. So, once again, like this charter, when you remember back a little bit over a year ago, the charter negotiations were ugly, at least from the outside. Like, there was all these talks, anonymous sources saying that they felt like there was a gun held to their head, and like they had a midnight deadline at like 6 p.m. It was like 100 pages. It was ugly. Really, really ugly. Ultimately, 13 of the 15 teams decided to sign. So this kind of lines up with that, where Joe Gibbs doesn't say there was a gun held to his head, but he said he was put at risk in terms of his charters getting taken away, which would have been detrimental to his organization. Richard Childress had a shorter statement here. I mean, you can see the whole thing in one little blip. So, once again, voluntarily and of his own free will, there you go. Without charters, the team ownership model is unsustainable. All right. Brad Keselowski. Now, this is an interesting one because him and Denny Hamlin are in similar positions because they both drive and own in the NASCAR Cup Series at the same time, with the difference being that Denny Hamlin drives for a separate team, whereas Brad Keselowski drives for himself. The biggest confusing part I had in this was what does the SRX have to do with this, Brad? I don't. NASCAR did not prohibit my participation. Well, dude, the SRX series was like a midweek series. Like, why would NASCAR prohibit your participation in that? Part didn't make sense to me. I really did not understand that part. Okay, thank you, Brad, for that information. Very, very telling. Someone smarter than me, tell me why that makes sense, please. Now, Gordon Smith, owner of Hyak Motorsports, formerly JTG Doherty, he points out, he says, I believe that the 2025 charter represents the best deal that Hyak Motorsports and the other participating teams were able to negotiate, and the stability and certainty afforded by the charter system. Also, I think it's interesting that they capitalized the word charter. Random side note. System is a key and integral part of what enables us to have success. I have significant concerns about the current litigation, given the uncertainty it brings and the detrimental effect it may have on the future of the sport. Okay, so this is another thing. These statements are being made. I should have mentioned this earlier, honestly, but as a voice to try to get the teams in NASCAR to settle, because ultimately, if this thing goes to trial and someone loses, it doesn't matter who loses. If the teams lose, we lose 2 NASCAR teams, one of which is owned by Michael Jordan. That is a big loss. Losing 2 teams, losing 2 3-car cup teams, and on top of that, Front Row owns a truck series team. If we lose them, that is a huge, a lot of people out of jobs, team out of business. Like, that's a big, big deal. If we lose 2311, 3-car team out of business, very big deal. People lose their jobs. But Michael Jordan, the notoriety, every time he's at the racetrack, everyone's taking pictures of him, videos of him. He ends up on TV. And everyone's like, oh my God, Michael Jordan's at a NASCAR race. And then they're like, oh yeah, Michael Jordan owns a NASCAR team. So we lose that notoriety. Well, if NASCAR loses, the court said that they can make NASCAR do some stuff, give up some ownership of things, have to relinquish some of its powers. Or, NASCAR, at the end of the day, if they lose this lawsuit, there's a chance that they can kill the charter system. They can say, all right, we lost. You don't like the charter system, or you don't like how we like it, so screw you. Pull the charter system plug. So, from a middle perspective, if you're a team, it makes sense why you're releasing these statements, because ultimately you don't want to see other competitors go away. You don't want to see NASCAR have to completely shift their business models or potentially kill the charters, because these charters are money makers. They're getting sold for nearly $45-50 million and they're only going to increase in value. And that's kind of, if you're an owner, if you want to get out of NASCAR one day, that's your ticket. Like, you can sell the shop. Yeah, you can sell the parts. Sure, you can sell a lot of physical things, but the charter itself is the moneymaker. That's the part that's going to get you a lot of cash, to say the least. And then once again, kind of similar to what Gibbs said, John Wood, president, I think he owns the Wood brothers at this point. He's in that line somewhere. He said something similar to Joe Gibbs, and he didn't want to risk losing what his family had worked for. Carl Long believes in the charter system. BJ McLeod believes in the charter system. Rick Hendrick had a long one. He had a really long statement. He also points out he thinks the charter system is critical to the NASCAR ecosystem. And once again, voluntarily and through his own free will. So, yeah, I kind of rambled there a lot, as I always do, but yeah, more lawsuit stuff. The teams have, I don't know if intervened is even the right word, but they've made statements. The team owners have made statements. I can't even say on behalf of NASCAR. I know that Joe Gibbs, I think it was, who specifically pointed out that Jim France and Steve Phelps had reached out, asking for him to do this. I'm sure they asked all the teams, and, you got a lot of team owners speaking up there. So, I think the main point from most of them, you had the teams, they still want the charter system to exist. So obviously, as I said earlier, NASCAR losing, that could jeopardize that. So they want some sort of settlement between the teams and NASCAR. And ultimately, I think everyone agrees that a settlement would be the best option. Now, sure, someone's going to lose somewhere in there, and the details may not fully come out, but I don't know. This situation just sucks. So team owners have spoken out. They've released their own statements. They've said, yeah, we like the charter system. It's nice to have that stability, that financial stability. It's a big help to the teams. And, when we go back and think about the discussions that happened over the last 3 years, we didn't want to risk losing our teams. We didn't want to risk losing our asset, everything we had built, our families had built over these years. So, yeah. Thanks for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed. We got the Cup Series at the Roval tomorrow. NASCAR's home weekend.